Today we are going to be looking at some data from a coffee shop. And our goal today is start to explore the way that we can use graphs in Excel to display information. So we want to look at some data like this. This might be very similar to the data you would collect as a small business, and see what we can do to make sense of that, or to visually display it in a way that would make sense to maybe an investor or to ourselves if we wanted to analyze our business. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at making a line graph. All right, so when you make a line graph, it's very important that you select the appropriate categories to compare. You want to be sure you're comparing the same thing in every line. So right here, if we look at column C is the number of coffees we sell. Column D is the number of dollars we make from coffee, and it's pretty simple. It's the number in column C times 4, because a coffee is $4. It doesn't make a lot of sense for me to have a line graph that has both coffee and coffee dollars on it. Why? Those are two different things. Why would I need to compare them on the same graph? However, it does make sense for me to compare, say, the number of coffees I sell versus the numbers of espressos I sell versus the number of water bottles I sell. You wouldn't want to compare, say, the numbers of espressos you sell to the dollars of water you sell, though in this case, the water is just $1, so those numbers will all be the same. What's going to be really important here is that we select appropriate columns, and I know you can't see this in the video, but I'm going to give you a user tip, which is the control key located in the bottom corners of your keyboard. That lets you easily select multiple columns. So right now, if I just click on column A will be selected. And if I click on column C will be selected, but column A is deselected. This is the problem. So click on column A, hold down the control key, then click on column C. Now they are both selected, and column B is not selected. I want to compare, in this particular video demo, all of our various food products, but not the dollar amount for each product. So here I have my time selected. That's going to be my y-axis. Sorry, my x-axis. And the amounts are going to be my y-axis. So now it's just a matter of selecting all the food columns. I want column E. That's the number of espressos. Column G, that's the number of waters. And columns I, J, K, and L. All right. With these selected, it's fairly simple for us to make a good comparison line graph. We're just going to go to Insert, Line, and then choose an appropriate one. I picked the first one. You can pick any of these. I would suggest either this first one here or the one right below it. But for now, I'm going to pick this first graph here. And wow, look at that. This seems quite easy. Excel has made us a graph. Now, if you selected everything correctly, you should have a graph that looks very similar to mine. I'm just going to enlarge it a little bit to make it easier to see. On our x-axis, we have the times. If those aren't showing up on yours, make the graph again, but make sure column A is selected. You probably forgot to select column A. And our y-axis here, we have the units sold. There's a couple of problems with our chart, and the biggest one for me is that it doesn't say what these numbers are. They're just kind of numbers. That's not good information. We always want to give the best information possible. The chart also doesn't have a title. So I'm going to fix this by going right up here to this chart layouts box and clicking layout 1. That's this first one here. And that's going to give me a space for a title and a space for an axis title. I'm going to fill those in. I'll start with the chart title, and so I will say this is units of food sold one day. And clicking in the white space to deselect that. And the axis title is units sold. So this is a pretty good graph. It gives us a lot of good information. Some of it's pretty much what we would expect. Early in the morning, there's a lot of coffee sold. You see coffee is this kind of dark blue line here, and some espresso sold. We get kind of a lunch rush between, I'd say, 11:30 and 2:30, where all of our sales have a spike. And it's pretty quiet throughout most of the afternoon and evening until really that after dinner time at about 8 o'clock until we close. You see another large spike. There's also some good information about exactly what we're selling. So you'll see water is at its highest right in the middle of the day. At the same time, salads are at its highest. We see a lot of those around lunch. So maybe we have our healthy eaters coming in at lunch and more of the dessert and chat crowd coming in later in the evening. And we're selling more cookies. So this is a good graph, and this gives us good information. But it does, at this point, kind of get in the way of our actual data. So the last thing I want to do in this video is show you Excel's Move Chart function. I'm going to right-click here, and I'm going to go Move Chart. And what I want to do is I want to move this chart as an object, so make sure the second one is selected, into the Graphs tab. All right, so you'll see I have 3 tabs here at the bottom. They're called Sheets in Excel, but tab Sheets. So we're currently in the Sales sheet. We also have an Employees sheet. But I want to move it here to the Graphs sheet. So I'm going to move Check Object in Graphs and hit OK. So Excel automatically takes us to the Graphs tab, and it moves that chart. If we go back to our Sales tab, we'll see the chart is gone. This is useful, and I would suggest doing things in exactly this order, because using the Move Chart function makes sure that your chart live updates data. Here's an example. This chart right now, the way we constructed it, is currently getting live data from this sales sheet and will update itself if something changes. So I'm going to kind of arbitrarily change a point here. So let's go coffee at 9 o'clock is a value of 13. All right. So back to the sales tab where we created this. Now let's go coffee and look at 9 o'clock, and that's exactly what we'd expect. There's 13 of them there. So I'm just going to change this to 20. And we should expect the graph to change. So I change this to 20, I hit enter. And go back to the graphs and look, now we have a spike. This coffee at 9 o'clock is value 20. This is a very, very important function of charts and graphs in Excel. The ability to go in and change data or add data and have the chart update on its own is very useful. If I were to go in and add more times to the sales piece, I could have the graph continuously get longer. That might be a function that's useful for your business. I'm going to go ahead and change this back just so you can see. So I'm going to change this 20 back to a 13, I believe it was. And we'll see the graph goes back to the way it looked just a minute ago.